Hello and welcome to the first bonus video video review for the first episode from series 5 of The Wind in the Willows. This series was also known as Oh Mr. Toad, particularly when it was originally broadcast on ITV in 1990. So I'm doing one of these every 4 weeks as kind of a bonus one. So yeah, without further ado, let's hit the play button for The Chief's Return. Okay, that's playing now. Okay, so like I say, series 5, it came about because The Wind in the Willows, the ratings for the previous series had gone down a little bit, so they wanted to do a final series, partly because Cosgrove Hall didn't have another production to move on to, or in the pipeline, so they obviously had all the props, puppets, sets and everything in situ, so they were able to do this final series. But like I say, it was changed. I mean, these titles are the ones widely available now on DVD, but and they were used for international purposes. You can see the slight change there with the shot of Badger, and then we go to a title page here that is typical of every episode, and the big difference is that there's no narrator there now. No more Ian Carmichael. Well, saying that, we do have a narrator in that Toad is narrating from his bed, so he's reading from his diary, as you can see, looking back on the day's events, and then of course we go into those day's events themselves, which become the episode. So it was called Oh Mr. Toad. They wanted to brighten up a bit. They wanted to make it more centred around Toad, being that he is kind of the central and most fun character, really. So this is it, yeah. So the first episode leads on quite nicely from A Tale of Two Toads, which was the special that was made and broadcast around Christmas 1989, and then this series was broadcast in 1990. So what they needed was a storyline that took the Chief Weasel and the henchman out of prison. I'll obviously review A Tale of Two Toads when we get there, but long and short of it is that they are imprisoned, and of course we need the Weasels out of prison so that they can be part of Series 5, because it wouldn't really be the same without the Weasels, of course. So Brian Truman wrote this script, but I have to say I don't think it's one of the strongest episodes. It's my least favourite probably from Series 5, only because I think it feels like an excuse to. It's like a filler. It's like it had to exist, and they had to have a way of getting the Weasels out of prison. And it's an episode that to me isn't very believable. It's a little bit infantile, and I know The Wind in the Willows can be very far-fetched, but this one particularly, it's just a bit odd. I mean, here are the Weasels here trying to talk Toad into becoming their chief, so replacing the Chief Weasel, and even I believe even Toad wouldn't be that stupid. And the episode unfortunately does get sillier as it goes on. So, but I'm not, undermining Brian Truman's work. He's obviously a fantastic scriptwriter, but you're always going to have hits and misses, and I think this is a bit of a misfire, unfortunately. But having said that, it's beautifully directed, beautifully shot. There are some nice moments which we'll obviously look at as the episode progresses. It was actually directed by Francis Foes, who started on the earlier series and on the feature film, I think, as a prop maker. Then he did a bit of animation, worked his way up, and quickly became a director. He directed Creepy Crawlies, which is a series that was kind of going on at the same time. Went on to direct Truckers after this as well. So, and he's directed some wonderful episodes in Series 5, including Hall for Sale, Midsummer Night's Disaster, and one of my favourites, Toad in Love. This is probably the weakest one, but I think it is down to the script, really. But Francis Foes, or Frank Foes, as some people know him, he actually employed me in the first place at Cosgrove Hall. He began my career for me, really. So I'm very grateful. But the other thing to point out with Series 5 is it does feel fresh. I mean, obviously, especially when we're in Badger's house here, it feels very similar to those previous series. But there are new ingredients. There's new costumes that have been made. There are new set pieces like Toad's Garden we saw just now. There's a new set there outside of the prison. Keith Hopwood and Malcolm Rowe wrote new music for it. So it's just got this new sort of feel to it. It feels like a separate series. So I like to think of it as Oh Mr. Toad. I don't really think of it as Series 5 of The Wind and the Willows, even though it's labelled that way. So here we are seeing the Weasels in prison, very dark scene. Not just dark material wise, but dark lighting wise. You can barely see what's going on. Those costumes still exist. Inmate costumes, you could call them. And a lot of Toad's costumes in this episode exist as well, still, in the archive. So what happens here, I think, you know, it's typical the Weasels, you know, talking Toad round and kind of cheating Toad. But like I say, it is far-fetched, especially with the character of the warden who doesn't even know what's going on. It's okay. I like the grittiness of the walls, you know, the prison walls. Totally different set to the prison from the film. If you think back to that one, that was it was a prison, but it still it felt spotless and clean compared to this one. But lovely animation throughout this, and great vocal work as always. If you listen to David Jason here, absolutely brilliant as always. A little bit reminiscent of the Tale of Two Toads, and like I say, we'll review that when we get to it, but not for a while yet. So this here, I just think it's just so far-fetched that they've managed to get away with it and escape, get past the warden, escape through the window and drive off in Toad's car. And then the prison warden, I call him a warden, he's more like a jailer really, isn't he? But he comes back just to find Toad, and Toad will be their replacement. It's silly to me. Anyway, I've got to stop criticising, it's not that bad. Some lovely scenes like this one here. I love those country scenes, it just opens it up a bit, it doesn't feel too claustrophobic when it's like that. Using the countryside sets. That water fountain, I think, is glimpsed for the first time here with Series 5 and the special. Toad, Mole's got a nice red jumper there. And here we have a henchman in the nurse's outfit. So here we have Ratty and Mole, basically don't realise it's the henchman Weasel. Now, you can accept that when it's Toad, but when it's Rat and Mole, you just feel, is it really? Are they that stupid? But then again, that's been the case before. If you think of, there's an episode called Fancy Dress, which we'll get to at one point. In Series 2, the Weasels are dressed up there, and Rat, Mole and Badger don't realise it's them, so it's fine.
No! Release you, or I will never.
But I told you!
I know what you told them, and I know that you are their friend.
No,
And if I am
Sorry, a bit of a cough.
you am, and you stay until they return,
but they'll never
So this
then say
episode, at the beginning, Toad read from his diary, and I think he said August the 27th, I think. It was definitely August, so obviously we're in March at the moment. But for some reason, a lot of the Series 5 episodes, the dates in his diary are August and September, and a little bit into the winter, but none in the spring, and you think it would have been spread out, but I guess they didn't take it that seriously. But I wanted to do it every 4 weeks, so I've spread them out, so if I review one every 4 weeks, it will take a year to get through them.
there was something about those eyes, about that voice. Just what I felt, Badger.
I mean, when I look at the Wind and the Willows series as a whole, the episodes I like the most are the ones that show, you know, a little bit of maturity, a little bit of, you know, believability that goes beyond the characters just being in a animated family, so-called, or stroke children's program. This is where this one feels a little bit childish, a little bit. It's hard to put my finger on it. There are other episodes that are much deeper, much more interesting, have more scope. This is a bit of a light touch, this one. I love Toad Suit there, look at that, beautiful. And of course that still exists. Got up a photo of that.
When you're rested, we all have work. An empty cell.
This is, gotta stop criticising this one. Being too harsh, but this is just an odd speech.
For the cheering sound of a black mariah hurrying near. Army.
That's a nice cut there. Nice directing. Going from prison food to Toad's favourite food. Cream cakes. Or they're chocolate eclairs. Probably more like chocolate eclairs, isn't it? Now that painting on Badger's easel there, I think we've seen before. Well, not in these reviews, of course, but earlier in the series. Now what we hear here, music-wise, is a little instrumental version of the main theme of Oh Mr. Toad, which of course is the song A Hero's Song, with the lyrics straight from the book, and of course featured in the original film. But they used it as the opening and closing theme music. So when we get to the end of this episode, we'll see the closing credits are actually to that theme music and not the Wind and the Willows theme music.
If you want to throw those villains out by yourself, you may do so. By yourself.
By myself.
There's typical Toad here, realising he doesn't want to do it by himself. And he's wondering, what's Badger thinking of?
Of a cure. A cure, Badger? A cure for whom, Badger? Why? For the poor, sick gentleman who's lying in Toad's bed.
And when you have scenes like this, you know, this series often described as just characters talking to each other. But when you see a wide shot of all four of them, it's just keeping the other characters alive, isn't it? You know, you've Ratty and Mole listening to Badger there. Because one of them's talking, the others are listening. So it sort of tilts of the head, blinks, natural looks at each other, thinking, like Mole there with his hand coming up. Toad's obviously the centre of attention there, so you've got Mole just listening. So it just takes a little bit of care to think about, what's the timing with that, you know, how do you time those holds? Very easy to make a character look wooden if you're just doing gestures back and forth like that. You've got to make it look very naturalistic and not overdo it. You don't want to keep them too busy. Like Ratty there, the hands just held together, and he's held there for a while, then his head moves. Very nice and natural. So this is where it gets very silly, but it's fun. So Toad as Dr. McSquarren. I mean, I do like that they're playing. They're playing the weasels at their own game, aren't they? They're getting them back. What the weasels do all the time, disguise themselves. And now Toad's playing someone, and the henchman hasn't caught on yet. I have to warn him, tell him. It's wonderful thinking of Brian Truman playing the henchman, doing that voice, reading his own scripts. He was never selfish, he never tried to make his character too dominant in his writing. There we go, of course, the library set, which is introduced mainly in like Series 4 and then of course used throughout Series 5. Quite a key set in both those series.
I'm sorry, Toad.
And Toad always had a library, as mentioned in the film. We see a glimpse of it when they go in the film, but that was a painted backdrop that Beverly Bush did. It was never an actual set because it wasn't needed in the film. The glasses there. So you can see how bright the characters are. I mean, obviously I've just reviewed The Great Steamer and we only had Rat and Mole in that one, but you can see how bright and, you know, the brighter paint they used on them, just to brighten them up, simple as that. But you compare a Series 5 episode to a Series 1 episode and Toad is much, much yellower in these later episodes. Badger's got more contrast between the black and white on his fur. Ratty's brighter and Mole's much brighter around his face. So it does make them look a bit less natural, a bit less realistic. But it's fine, you know. It's very nice. It's got a very nice aesthetic to it.
What can you do?
I mean, David Jason's good at doing the Scottish voice.
It's for your own good, Toady, and you're usually so good about taking medicine.
Now this episode is actually one of the very few that was never released on video. In fact, Series 5, I've got the videos here, was released across 3 videos, namely this one. So there was an Oh Mr. Toad video, a yellow one, and then there was this very nice bumper special. So there's 3 episodes on that, 5 episodes on that, and then there was a W.H. Smith exclusive with 3 episodes on that, which of course makes 11 episodes. So there are 13 in Series 5. So for whatever reason, this one and another one, Hip Hip Soiree, were not released. But in some ways I can see why. They're probably the 2 weakest episodes. You'll see when we get to Hip Hip Soiree, it's a very odd one, but an interesting one. So this is where they poisoned the Chief Weasel. Well, the Chief Weasel thinks he's been poisoned, but he's just got a dollop of some medicine that's got an awful lot of spices and peppers, hot peppers in it. So they found a way of clearing the weasels out of Toad Hall, but not back to prison. And now, of course, they've accepted they're out of prison. It's fine. I mean, I think the other reason I always look at this one critically, and I know I shouldn't, but it's because it does follow A Tale of Two Toads, which is absolutely brilliant. I mean, I love the special A Tale of Two Toads. I think it's The Wind in the Willows at its height. It really is. And that was, I was talking about maturity before. It's got wonderful storytelling to it, and it's just a very, very good idea. The characters are so well developed, and in comparison this just feels shallow, so it's just... Now notice how Badger said there, the Maharaja of Ramji Pur is one of his old friends, and he mentions him in the episode Fancy Dress. They sing the song Fancy Dress. So Badger does have connections to India. He's travelled, which you'd expect really with Badger. The others are very kind of tied to the house. That's a nice big set there, so an extension of Toad Hall. You don't often see the grounds that vast. And here we have Series 5 credits. So like I say, very different. Just Toad's diary, and you can see the months go up on March there. Animators Andrea Lord and Stuart Sutcliffe. So Stuart came on board around this time, and he now works, I believe, he still works for McKinnon and Saunders. Otherwise, a lot of the of familiar people in the credits here. Rick Kent, just saw there. I know Rick Kent and Jeff Spain. There you go. Posers again. Camera. I know Peter Kidd. Nice guy. I love these shots of Tony's diary looking at the camera. Just lovely little cutaways. I don't know who animated them. Love to find out. It's probably Andrea, actually, Andrea Lord. It's beautifully done. And there, of course, as I say, Francis Faye. And we go to the Cosgrove Hall logo, so a new logo there. Well, it was new at the time. And there we go. So that's the Chief's return. So we are going to do one of these, like I say, every 4 weeks. One of another Series 5 episode every 4 weeks. And I'll see. Well, what will the next one be? I believe it's Mr. Toad of the Times in 4 weeks' time. So I'll see you for that one. But hopefully you'll join me next Sunday for Burglary at Toad Hall. So thanks very much, and see you soon.
Compared with that of Toad, intelligent Mr. Toad, encouraging Mr. Toad.